Thank you all for being here today. Glad to see you could get up this morning. I'm not a morning person myself, so I'm here. It's good to see you're here as well. I want to start out with a question. I want to see hands. This is actually an interactive presentation. Who likes slave and child labor? I'm having trouble with the vision, but I don't see any hands. Okay. Well, okay, we agree on something. And yet, we are pushing modern technologies, more expensive, more labor-intensive, more environmentally destructive technologies that are and do and shall for the foreseeable future, as far as I can tell, depend heavily on labor, child and slave labor. Now, modern electronics, everybody, I've got a cell phone in my pocket, everyone's got a cell phone, right? Now, they all use fossil fuels because the plastics are all made from fossil fuels, but internally, they all have materials, technologies, batteries, wiring. I'm having a senior moment here. Chips that all require rare earth and critical minerals. You can see some of it up here. I call them conflict minerals because most of these minerals, where they're mined, in the old days they talked about conflict diamonds. So you had warlords profiting from the diamond delivery or gold. Well, you've got the same types of people, the people that you'd like for your neighbors to watch your kids if you were away for the weekend, who are in control of these critical minerals. Corrupt governments, authoritarian governments. And if you look, you'll see the different minerals. You'll see some of the, in a second, you'll see some of the countries where they come from. The International Energy Agency notes this is electric vehicles and fossil fuel vehicles. Electric on the top, fossil fuel on the bottom. Critical minerals, which one has more, demands more critical rare earth minerals that come? Well, when it comes to rare earths, China dominates the world market. And when they're not producing them, they're refining them. They finance rare earth production in other countries like Afghanistan now. But then the rare earths themselves are delivered to China where they're refined and made into useful materials. So if you've got an electric car, you're asking China, don't control my life. You're begging them, I'll do anything you want, just make sure I have my electric vehicle. Because we're not producing those things in America. Cobalt, another thing. The Democratic Republic of Congo is not the largest reserves of cobalt, but they are by far the largest producer. And I want you to look at which technologies use cobalt. Well, offshore wind by far and away is the largest user of these critical minerals. Onshore wind is the second largest user of these critical minerals that are provided by slave labor and child labor. And solar is the third largest user. So if you want more of these things, you're actually encouraging bad actors using slave and child labor. That's the way of the world right now. We can say we shouldn't be doing that, but when you say we've got to have more of this, when you mandate it, you're actually saying, okay, ramp up the mines in Congo because we don't want it expensive. We want it cheap, right? A single offshore wind turbine requires 3 metric tons of copper and magnets, composed in large part of hard-to-find and mine minerals and rare earths. A much larger offshore wind turbine requires even more copper and magnets. In addition, between 200,000 and 1,500,000 pounds of earth must be mined and moved to produce lithium, copper, nickel, and other metals and trace elements necessary to produce a battery pack, a single battery pack for an electric car. much less the huge battery farms that we're going to supposedly back up all the wind and solar facilities. That's a lot of earth. That's a lot of labor. And it's a lot of slave labor, and it's a lot of environmental destruction. So, which leads us to the question, under what conditions do these minerals come from? This is cobalt, necessary component for all these green technologies. Biden is pushing on an expedited timescale. The largest producer of cobalt, Democratic Republic of Congo. I mean, it's not even close. It's not even close. And so you say, oh, well, at least we're enriching the good people of the Democratic Republic of Congo. They've got a lot of poverty there. We're enriching them. The people that are getting rich is the corrupt governments and the warlords and the mine managers. I think for some situations, an image tells 1,000 words. That's the old adage, right? So I'm just going to scroll through a few images. That's your laborers in the cobalt fields there. Can you imagine that situation in a mine in the U.S.? You think anyone would get away with that? There's a big one. Formalization of child labor. These little bitty pits that kids go in and dig out and then carry the heavy minerals. There's some of your well-paid workers in the Democratic Republic of Congo that are providing the minerals that we have for our cell phones and our wind turbines. Fantastic working conditions there. This is a teenager putting her infant in a cardboard box so she can go mine in the Congo for our cobalt. No, but we're greener than thou, so it's okay. And then there's China, where they have the Uyghurs, slave labor, the work re-education camps of the Falun Gong. I don't know anything about the Falun Gong's religion. I don't know if there's some weird cult or not, but I don't think you get to force them to be re-educated and work slave labor because you don't like their religion. These are some Chinese working those rare earth mines. Notice all the safety equipment they're wearing. The respirators and the masks and the oxygen. Oh, wait, you don't see any of that. Then there's the environmental destruction. This is just the waste, the tailings from these mines that's just flowing out into the rivers. You know, we worry about mining here in the U.S. Do you think any mining company would get away with that? Maybe 150 years ago, maybe 100 years ago, not today. Yellow. You like that yellow? If you like your water yellow, go to a rare earth mining or refining facility over there in China. It gives a whole new meaning to the Yellow River, right? That's toxic waste going straight into the stream that people downstream use water from. There's the earth, thanks to the Chinese Communist Party. Now, some people say, oh, well, you're hard on China, you're hard on the DRC. Honestly, to some extent, I understand why they're doing this. They're satisfying our demand. If we weren't demanding these materials, we wouldn't be seeing that. More well-compensated Chinese mine workers there. I love that machine. That looks like it could be out of some kind of sci-fi movie where you're on Mars mining something, right? I think it's an amazing machine, regardless of what whatever it's doing to the earth. The machinery itself is, wow. You're killing the planet to save it. Here, Western countries are very concerned about the planet, and this is what they're producing elsewhere. But at least not polluting the air. Oh, but wait, they are. This is the refining of these materials. We don't get away with that here. We don't get away with that in Western Europe. Australia doesn't allow this kind of thing to happen. So all these materials are produced by child labor, by slave labor, by, even when it's not child and slave labor, by workers who aren't operating under the same conditions we expect in the West, as far as safety, as far as health, as far as payment. I asked at the outset of my talk who's in favor of child and slave labor. I didn't see a single hand go up, and yet, if you ask the question honestly, evidently it's Joe Biden, the Democrats in Congress, and agency heads who demand ever greater amounts of green energy. You say, well, no, they don't like that. Well, their words say they don't like that. I admit that. But the impact of their policies seem to do so. So even the Biden administration's own State Department has acknowledged that child labor is rife in the production of cobalt. You can say, oh, Sterling, you're just making this up. Even with the pictures, that could be anything. No. This is what the Democratic, the Department of Labor's report says child labor is used to produce all these things. U.S. Embassy in the Democratic Republic of Congo, let's see, says it's a memorandum of understanding between the Department of Labor and the Ministry of Employment for Labor and Security about child labor. It said, well, we want you to do less of that. And the Congo says, okay, we're going to do less of that. We have a memorandum of understanding. Thank you. Now, how much cobalt do you need? Right? Do you think we have much enforcement power on them when we're demanding more and more of what they provide? I think you'd be a fool to believe that. So it's not as if they don't know this is going on. What about China? Well, we're tough on China, right? I like this. So we're going to get tough on China, and how do we get tough on China? We go to Africa for more stuff. So we're saying no more of that slave labor in China. We're not going to let you torture the Uyghurs. Instead, we'll just have you put more kids in the mines in Africa. So they passed a law. The Biden administration signed the Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act in 2021. Sounds good on paper. And it says, and under that, they blocked the import of thousands of Chinese solar panels. So they selected a group of ships, and they found, and they said, oh, that's slave labor. We're not going to allow these in. And yet, this is the reality of today's situation. You notice I had a lot of pictures of the DRC mining. I could have had hundreds of more. There are very few pictures coming out of China of the labor. Government has a little bit more control there. How much oversight do you think the U.S. government has over conditions in China? They block a few thousand solar panels, but how many batteries have they blocked coming in for your cell phones and for your electric vehicles? How many out of the probably millions of panels coming in, how many solar panels did they really stop? The point is, we don't know. We have no oversight. We have no grip on the Chinese as long as we want what they have and we're not producing it. So there's the alternative. I don't think we could get all the rare earths and minerals from the United States that we need, but we could get a lot of them. I believe the U.S. government should not be offshoring pollution to satisfy our green energy demands. I think that's morally objectionable. So what's the answer? If you want green energy, the answer is, well, let's get more mining done in the United States. How long does it take to get a mine permit in the United States? Well, under Trump, they were saying it took 10 years. Well, 10 years is better than never, I guess. 5 minutes. Yeah, we're going to make it, actually. Whoops, wrong way. So, just in the past 2 months, the Biden administration has blocked 3 mines. On the campaign trail, he says, we're going to renew mining in the United States. We're going to start producing rare earth minerals here. Every mine that comes up, but not you. But not you. Natural Resources Committee held a hearing on this, and let's see if I can read it here. So the State Department just last month withdrew for 20 years 225,000 acres of a mine. I say, well, you can go forward on the rest of the acreage. Well, it's not profitable if I can't use all the acreage for the mine. So the mine's not going forward. It's being challenged, but this is what Bruce Westerman said about that. We cannot have a future of renewable energy without minerals, period. Not to mention the necessity to our defense systems, satellites, cell phones, virtually every other technology. While Democrats play political ping pong with the American industries, China and Russia are laughing all the way to the bank. So we don't like the Chinese and the Congo and what they're doing. We'll replace it with our minerals, except we won't allow any mines to be built. The administration also blocked the mine in Bristol Bay. This is some of our allies, what they had to say about that. So the facts on the ground, the Biden administration can talk a good game about we don't like slave labor, we don't like child labor, we're going to produce stuff here. But the facts on the ground is they're not producing stuff here, they're blocking it at every turn, and yet they're requiring more and more of the materials to do their green energy push. I got a slide just at the end, and I didn't want to have to throw a third version to Jim to post, but so the laughingly called Inflation Reduction Act that passed last year, which was really a Green Energy Act, it contained, Biden bragged about these provisions. He says, this is about jobs for the U.S. So we're going to produce all these technologies, including 500,000 electric vehicle charging stations across the U.S. by date certain. And the beauty of it is they have to be made from materials made in the United States, built by laborers in the United States. We're not going to go begging to the Chinese, not us. Just 2 weeks ago, the Biden administration quietly in the back rooms waived that electric vehicle provision because they said, well, it turns out we're not going to get our chargers built and installed fast enough, and so we're waiving the labor and materials provisions. I said that was going to happen when they passed the Inflation Reduction Act. I said, you're not going to get the electric vehicles you say we're going to have in the time you say we're going to have it if you don't use Chinese materials, because we can't get a single mine built, much less enough mines to provide all the materials and the labor. So this is where they actually announced, we're giving $700 million to a lithium mine here in the U.S. And then the Department of Interior withdrew the critical acreage necessary to mine the lithium. So we're going to throw a lot of money at this mine that's now not going to be constructed. Publicly, we brag about how much we're giving to lithium. Privately, we're blocking the lithium production. So I guess I'll end it with this, yeah. There's no environmental or economic justification for the Biden administration's green energy agenda. It's not necessary to fight climate change. And as the benefits and costs fall in the real world, it's morally abhorrent. Even if you get all these things built and they deliver all the benefits that they say they're going to provide, including the climate prevention benefits, right? Even if best case scenario, we're still offshoring the cost to people to child labor and to slave laborers and to the environmental destruction in all these other countries that don't have our standards for mines. We can mine in the U.S. And when we do, it's often not pretty. I've been to mines in Montana. They're not beautiful, but they have to be reclaimed. Do you think the Chinese are going around reclaiming things after the destruction is wrought? We shouldn't offshore our pollution and encourage expanded, morally objectionable labor conditions to satisfy Western green virtue signaling. Thank you very much.